My name is Mohammed Nayal. I'm a senior consultant at Meirc, and I'm excited to share with you today takeaways from my years of experience working as an advisor with companies and government entities in the region where I help them develop strategies in different areas. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll go over a number of slides, after which I'll open up the floor for your questions. As we go through the presentation, please feel free to type your questions into the chat window located at the bottom of your screen as I go along. We will capture your input and try to answer all of your questions at the end. So let us test the chat screen and see if it works. Can you please type in your favorite color in the chat screen if you can hear me clearly? If you can't hear me clearly, just type in no. Blue, green, blue, green, green. Yes, that isn't a favorite color, Wa'il. Okay, green, green. Have lots of greens here. Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Let us go on. So just a quick summary of my background. I started my education in engineering and I transitioned over the years into strategy. I worked in the financial sector with HSBC America, and I also co-founded a startup called Correlation that developed data mining tools and techniques. I also worked in consulting with McKinsey. My assignments included projects such as education reform in Bahrain, economic investment policies in Saudi Arabia. And after working in the private sector, I spent 7 years working in the governments of Dubai and Abu Dhabi on innovation, technology, and strategy. So strategy is an area that I am passionate about, and I hope to share that passion with you in the next slides. Now, let us begin with what we will be talking about today. Our agenda will focus on the following. First, I will give a brief overview on strategy. We'll talk about what strategy is and what strategy is not. Next, I will go into more details about the 7 steps to strategic management. This should take us about 20 minutes, and then I will go on to answer as many of your questions as possible. Now, let's start out with this question. Now, what I'll do is I'll have this question. Don't answer on the chat screen yet, because we will have a question on the next page that you can click on. My first question is, which language does the word strategy come from? So 4 languages: Arabic, Greek, Chinese, and Latin, and you can try to type in your answer here. Okay, go ahead. A few people have picked 4, 5, 6. All right, half of you have answered so far. The other half are typing in. Don't type in, just click on the right answer. All right, so I'll end the voting in 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3, end. All right, let's see the results. Okay, so the correct answer is Greek. Oh, the word strategy is actually one of the words that has not been translated between different languages. The word strategy is in English, it's the same as in French, something very similar, and in Arabic. So it comes from the Greek word strategos, which means general in the army. So the general in the army was responsible for planning how to win the war. So that's where the word comes from. So let's start out by talking in general about what is your definition of strategy. Now you can type into the box. So maybe in a sentence or so, try to summarize what you think strategy is if you wanted to explain it to somebody who has never heard of it before. All right, I'll give you a minute to type it in. All right, so we have our first answer is a set of policies governed by the company. Neda says, defining the best way to win a battle, planning ahead for long or short-term goals. And Abu Bakr says, planning for the long term, planning for the future, long term or midterm. All right, so a few more seconds. I'll let you go ahead. All right, so here are the different definitions of strategy. If you look in different dictionaries, if you look at different articles and books, everything that you said is actually quite correct. It is something that's long-term. There is a particular goal or aim. There's a way to do that. And there is a very long definition from Exploring Corporate Strategy that says it's a direction and a scope. However, I like to keep things simple. Now, one way to think about it, my daughter Aya came and she said, Baba, what do you do? And I told her, I teach strategy. And she says, well, what is that word that I can't pronounce? And I said, it's it's about answering three questions. The first question is that you have to define, where are we now? What is the situation that we are in? What are the different competitors, the financial situations, the economic climate? Now, after you find out where you are, the next question is to start putting together your goal. Where do we want to go? So number two is, where do we want to go? What's our aim and what's our goal? And the third question is, how do we get there? If you answer those three questions, then what you have is a strategy. Now, most organizations start out with a vision. And a vision is definitely necessary. We'll talk about what a vision means, but let's just assume that a vision is a very long-term goal, something that the companies wants to see itself, or the organization wants to see itself in 5, 10, 20 years. Now, a lot of these companies, they have developed strategic plans, 80% of them, but only 50% or so have some strategic success, and only a third achieve overall significant strategic success. So the question is why? Well, a big part of the answer is it's not enough to come up with a strategy. You can come up with a great strategy and you can come up with a great binder, but it's also all about execution and how do you manage the execution. So what you need to do is look at the 7 steps that we've summarized in the next slides. So this will be the topic of our next segment. The strategic process starts with analyzing the environment, basically finding out where you are, where are your competitors, what are the different prices, what are the different strategies and tactics that your competitors are taking, where's the market going, the economic environment. And if you need to do that in order to figure out where you are, first of all. After that, the second step is to review the vision and the mission of the organization, and we'll talk about that. Third, you need to assess the different strategic choices. How will you be different than the competitors? Step 4 is about setting the objectives, KPIs, and targets. These 4 steps are what we call a long-term cycle, and this is typically 3 to 5 years. However, there are definitely exceptions. In some cases, it can be longer. Who would you think? Type into your box here. Who do you think? Which type of organization would have a much longer strategy or vision than 5 years? Their cycle is much longer. Yes, definitely. Public government. So looking at the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, for example, they have a Vision 2030. There are some visions for the government of Singapore that I've seen up to 2060. So all of these can be very, very long. Now, I will go to the opposite and ask you, is there any organization that will have a strategy for an hour and a half? This is a little bit harder. No? No one? Any answers there at all? Well, so what? Telecom? No, not for an hour and a half. Tech? Nope, not for an hour and a half. Even that for them, an hour and a half is too short. So finance trading? No, no. So maybe, but that will be more of a day. Now, what I'm talking about is a football game, for example. A coach can prepare a whole week for a game that is an hour and a half, and depending on the opponent, you will have a different strategy. Now, of course, those are the exceptions. And for this course, when we go into our 5 days teaching the content of this course, we speak about more the rule of the long-term cycle is 3 to 5 years. Now, after you've done the 4 steps, then you have to start out with the short-term cycle. And usually that is annual. You start out with creating action plans, you have to have a budget, and you have to manage performance and refresh, meaning that you have to go back and actually see if your strategy is working. And I think that most organizations fail with the execution part. You can have a great strategy, but without execution, it doesn't mean anything. Let's talk about step 1, analyzing the environment. Now, some of you have seen these different tools. The SWOT analysis is something that a lot of people use in different areas. There are the 5 forces from Michael Porter, the different framework on industry rivalry. There's the 7S framework from McKinsey. There's the pest analysis. It really doesn't matter what tool you use. The important thing is you have to do something. You need to know where you are, what the conditions are like around you, who are the competitors, what are the demographics like. If you don't know where you are, then you'll be heading to a destination without knowing where you're starting from. It's as simple as when I am lost and I want to get to a certain hotel, and I call my sister and I ask her, I say, I want to get to the Marriott. Can you please give me directions? The first question that she will ask me is, where are you? The second step is reviewing your vision, mission, and I've added values. Now, this is something that in our course at Meirc, we go into more detail, but the vision, mission, and values are a very powerful tool to make it very clear to the organization what you are doing. It provides meanings, it provides focus, it brings unity, and it empowers employees to do certain things. Now, the third thing is assessing strategic choices. Now, from the picture that I've shown you here, what do you think I'm talking about, assessing strategic choices? What do you think this picture shows you? Go ahead, type into your box. Ashraf is typing. Red, unique. All right, good, excellent. Unique. How are you going to be different? Now, in this globalized world, it's very important that you're not like everyone else. You can be like everyone else, but if you're like everybody else, you have to be cheaper. Now, if you're not like everybody else, you can command a different price. You can set up the price that you would like. Now, let me show you a video, and then after that, I will ask you a question. Now, the video that I will show you is about the fastest time that you can build a hotel in. Let's say this hotel is about 20 stories. Now, in general, it takes about 2 years maybe on average to build a hotel. In some places, much more. There's a lot of things to do. It's a very complex thing and a lot of moving parts. So actually, let's see this. And I would like you to pay attention to a number. There's a number on the lower left-hand side of the screen. And I would like you to guess what that number is. So let's watch the video. All right, just give us a little minute until it's loading. Sorry about that. Okay, so the question that you saw 90. What do you think that is? Is it days, months, years, or something else? So go ahead and click on the poll. All right, so we have 15 people. I'll give you another minute or so. A few seconds, sorry, 10 seconds more. 5, 4. All right, I will end the voting now. So the majority of you have said it's days, and a few of you have said months, and less have said years. Of course, it's not going to be years. Now, the others who have said 70% have said others. What do you think that is? And I think a lot of you have typed that in already, and you are correct. It is actually hours. Now, what does 90 hours mean? It means that they have finished the hotel in 4 days. Now, my question to you, and you can type in yes, no, or maybe, is this company, regardless of let's assume that the quality of their building is actually quite good, and it is quite good because I know this company and I know the hotel that they built. Do you think that they are different than other construction companies? Questionable quality, Muhammad, actually it's not questionable quality, it's actually good quality because it's made out of steel. Yes, yes, definitely, yes. So this company is a Chinese company, and what they did is they built this during the Expo 2010. And the reason why this Expo was actually held in China. And the reason why they built it is that they wanted to show the rest of the world their actually construction capabilities. And that's why they made sure actually that the hotel is built very, very well. Now, what I am trying to do here is I'm saying that if you want to go into construction, if you want to develop a construction company in the Middle East, what do you think most people do? They say, well, we do the same as everybody else, but we're cheaper. Well, that's just not enough because if you're competing on price alone, you're not going to make a profit. This company over here does something completely different. They don't have any competitors, so they can set the price that they would like. Let's go on to the next slide now. Now, step number 4 is about setting your objectives, KPIs, and targets. So you have your vision, you have your mission, and then you have to set up, what am I trying to do? What are my goals? And the strategic objectives, the way that we define them, they're very high level, but there has to be a way to measure them, to measure your goals and what are your targets. How are you going to know that you got there? Now, the definition of a strategic objective, it's very broad, it's long-term, but it's priorities, things that you focus on. You can't focus on 100 different things. You need to define areas that you will work on. You need to focus on the outcomes. So the criteria for setting strategic objectives, there are really no rules. However, the fewer the better. So what we recommend is they have to range from about 4 to 12. Because less than 4, it means that you don't have anything that you're really focusing on. 12, it becomes a little bit chaotic. Now, these are examples of strategic objectives: improving staff productivity, enhancing product selection, increasing asset utilization, something like that. So as you can see, they're very broad and they're not very focused yet. However, once you start putting KPIs, they start becoming a little bit more focused. So you have to ask yourself, how am I going to measure this specific strategic objectives? And what we recommend is for each strategic objective that it has at least 1 to 2 KPIs, which we call strategic KPIs, strategic key performance indicators. Now, here are examples of different key performance indicators. I will concentrate on more under the lag, because the lead are basically some KPIs that you use on very much the short term. But if you look at a percentage increase on the morale survey, how much is your market share, your ranking within schools, your net income to sales ratio, those are things that you can measure. They can tell you, are you being successful in reaching your goal or not? Now, the targets here are things that you put specifically for you. They challenge the organization to improve in the future. And these have to be things that are smart. Now, what do we mean by smart? Smart means that they're specific, something that's focused. Two, that they're attainable, meaning that attainable doesn't mean that they're easy to do, but it doesn't mean that they're impossible. It means that it's something that's a stretch to reach. Time bound, meaning that you know when you're going to achieve this. Measurable, something that you can measure very easily. Relevant is something that means that it's relevant to your vision and mission. Now, what I would like you to do is read these four and tell me from our very brief description of SMART KPIs, which one of these is not a SMART target? Go ahead and vote. Right, have 4 people so far. Okay, 9 people. Okay, 10 more seconds and then I'll close the voting. So go ahead and vote if you can. All right, so it's very close on the last 3, and I will end the voting now. All right, so the majority of you said it's 200,000 square foot per day by the end of the year. And actually, the correct answer is rank 5th in the World Bank's annual survey. Now, I want to ask you, and type this into your chat box, which one is this missing from the SMART? You said S, specific, M, measurable, A, attainable, R, relevant, and T, time-bounded. Rula says time-bound. Absolutely correct. Rank 5th in the World Bank's annual survey. When? Next year, in 5 years, in a century, after 1,000 years? It has to be time-bounded. Otherwise, you won't give specific targets to people. All right, good, excellent. Now, the step number 5, and we're going into more of the annual plans, is that you would go into action plans. And here you would write out your different initiatives under these high-level strategic objectives. And you will put KPIs, but the difference is these will be operational KPIs. And you can see you can go down in more detail. At the end, you can have a specific plan. Now, the criteria that you need to define different work streams clearly. You need to specify your start date, end date, what are the different milestones, track progress, manage it, assign responsibilities and accountabilities. And this is again where a lot of companies fail. Come up with a great mission, great vision, excellent strategic objectives, excellent ways to measure them, but then there's not an effective action plan and there's no measurement. Here are different types of initiatives. For example, if your KPI and your target is to increase distribution channels, then some of the initiatives should be to identify different routes. If your KPI is cycle time to fill vacancy, then you need to develop a recruitment policy. So you can see under different KPIs, there can be different initiatives. And here's a visual way of tracking the different initiatives. Some of you will be familiar with this. This is a Gantt chart, but it's really just a visual way to show all your different initiatives and where they are. But you need to make sure that you're tracking progress in different activities. Now, step 6 is the budgeting. This is quite important because a lot of the times you go in, you set out a lot of initiatives, but you don't have enough budget. So now hopefully you've come up to step number 6 and you know the budget is there. where would you have seen, in which step would you have seen whether the budget is there or not for your different strategic initiatives? Go ahead, type into your chat box if you can. Just put in a number. Is it step 1, step 2, step 3? We're at step 6 right now. Right, I'll give you a few seconds. Step 6, we are at step 6. All right, Frederick, thank you. All right, I see a few people typing, but I don't have any answers yet. Okay, can you display the steps again? All right, I'll display the steps again. These are the different steps. All right, I'll display them for 3 seconds and then I'll go back. So 5, 5, 5, 3, 6, again 6, no, not 6. Should have done that before. You should know that there is a certain budget that's available. Where would you do that? That would actually be in step number 1. When you analyze the environment, part of the analysis of the environment is not just analysis of outside, it's actually analysis of what's inside. Your capabilities as a company, your ability to raise different funds if you need it. So for example, if you're a small company and there's no access to funds at all, and there's no way for you to raise certain funds, you're not going to come up with a strategic initiative that says, let's increase the number of stores that we have from 1 store to 1,000 stores. You have to be able to get the funds for that. Step number 7 is an important step, and this is about managing performance. And here it's about controlling the outcome. You have to constantly gather your different results, provide evidence. Where are you going? Are you doing well? Are you underperforming or performing better than you expected? You have to flag different areas of over performance and promote transparency. Many times when I've been involved in a strategy, you don't find out that one initiative isn't doing well until the end of the year. Well, that's not acceptable. You have to find out before, because if you do find out before, you have a chance to actually change your plan accordingly. So here's an example of what a CEO might be looking at every week. So I know it's very difficult to see the details, but what I want you to look at is the different colors. Now, a lot of you said your favorite color was green, and green here represents doing over target. Yellow means you're good, but if the CEO sees some projects, some initiatives into red, that's where you can go in and actually help out. So here is what we have done. We have talked about the 7 steps to strategic management. We began with the long-term cycle of analyzing the environment up to setting the overall high-level objectives and targets, and ended up with the annual short-term cycle, creating action plans, and then ending up with managing performance and refreshing. Now, to learn more about what we do at Meirc and strategic management, there are different courses that I've put here. There's our introductory course on strategic thinking and planning. It's actually one of our most popular courses. You can see the amount of courses that we have in both Arabic and English. And what we do there is we take a real example. We ask attendees to come up with an idea of a company, and we build a strategic plan from the beginning until the end. The certified strategist is a little bit more advanced. What we do there is we take a company that's struggling and we come up with a strategy in 5 days on what to do to actually change the fortunes of this company. We've also introduced a course that is specifically for the public sector because the government is different. So we have our course in strategy management in the public sector. That's next year in October. All right, so what I'd like to do now, thank you very much for bearing with me. We've gone over the time allotted for us, but what I'd like you to do is that if you if you would have any questions, then what I'd like you to do is that if you can reference the webinar and send any questions that you have to meirc@meirc.com. We'd be very happy to follow up with you. And I see a question also that nothing in Abu Dhabi. Actually, we do have some courses, not this specific course in Abu Dhabi. However, if you do want us to be in Abu Dhabi, please write to us and let us know that you would like the course to be held there. We definitely take all of the comments of our clients into consideration. So thank you very much. Like I said, if you would like to type a question, send us a question, send it to meirc@meirc.com. You can address it to me. My name is Mohammed Nayal, or you can also send it, you can reference the webinar. And I see a question on that. Can you please share the presentation? Yes, we can definitely share the presentation to the email that you have signed up to. So we will do that. We will send it to you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you being with us, and I hope to see you in one of our courses. Thank you very much.
Meirc.com